And good morning once again, my brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. I want to welcome you to another Living Hope Today study. Today we find ourselves in Joshua chapter 20, and would you believe, this is a 9-verse chapter, but even though it's short compared to, I think yesterday's chapter 19 was 51 verses, instead of a lot of names and territories and borders as we've been watching as the promised land has been allocated, today in chapter 20, we see the promised land regulated by God when certain things happen. The Lord is putting in systems that guarantee not only that justice can be served, but that mercy can be applied and that society can run as God intends it, run orderly, run with justice and mercy. Let me show you what I mean. Here we are in Joshua 20, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Joshua, so according to verse 1, we know this comes exactly from God himself. Tell the Israelites to designate the cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses. Now, you remember back in Numbers 35, I think it is, God told Moses to set up cities of refuge. What are those? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's keep going. I think the passage is about to tell us. So that anyone, so this applies to everybody, anyone who does what? Kills a person accidentally, that's one criteria. And the second, and unintentionally. Okay, what do we call that? Somebody that's killed accidentally and unintentionally, we call that manslaughter. Right? You kill somebody with your car, they call it vehicular manslaughter. As long as you didn't mean to do it, you weren't murdering that person, and it was an accident. It's called manslaughter. Okay, what is this about? The cities of refuge are for people that cause somebody else's death accidentally, unintentionally, and they're allowed to do what? To flee there, to flee to a city of refuge, and to find protection from the avenger of blood. Well, who is the avenger of blood? Well, in many ways, in the ancient days, it was like the Wild West, right? If somebody killed somebody in your family, what did you do? You exacted vengeance for yourself. You tracked them down and you killed them. And so the Lord is saying, look, accidents happen. Manslaughter is a fact of life. Instead of one terrible death leading to another terrible death, I'm going to put a system in place where the one who slayed somebody accidentally and unintentionally can run to that city. What happens if you go to that city? Well, when he flees to one of these cities, he is to stand in the entrance of the city gate and state his case. In other words, this is what happened. Okay, this is why I'm here at the city of refuge. Somebody died. It was at my hand, but it was an accident. And I never intended to hurt them. You know, maybe he's swinging his axe and the head of the axe flies off and kills the guy next to him. He never intended it. It was accidental. He stands before the elders of the city and he tells them the story. What are they supposed to do? Well, then they are to admit him into their city and give him a place to live with them. Oh, this isn't throw him in jail. This is bring him into the city. Let him live there. Well, there's even a little more to it. If the avenger of blood pursues him, who's that again? That's some relative, some family member of the deceased who decides, I'm going to get the guy that killed my brother or whoever it was, right? The avenger of blood pursues him. If that happens, they must not surrender the one accused. Okay? The city of refuge protects the one who committed manslaughter. Somebody died accidentally, unintentionally, fled to the city of refuge. The elders heard the case. The elders brought him in. Now the slayer or the avenger of blood comes to kill the slayer. And what happens? The city of refuge protects him because he killed his neighbor unintentionally and without malice aforethought. He wasn't trying to murder the person. He never intended their death. Very important distinctions. Very important distinctions. So what is he supposed to do? He's supposed to stay in that city until he has stood trial. Oh, so there is justice. He's going to have to face the fact that this happened, and he's going to go to trial for it. He stays in the city of refuge until he has stood trial before the assembly. So now we're talking about not one family member decreeing that the slayer is guilty, and so he's going to execute justice on his own and murder the one that is responsible for the death of his family member. No, now we're talking about an assembly, a neutral, I think this is where we get our jury system and the definition of manslaughter as well, if you want to go that far. But, okay, so now we're going to have a trial. There's going to be an assembly. We're going to listen. All right? You can stay in that city until that's happened, and you're most likely, if everything you've said is true, you're most likely to be declared innocent of murder. Right? It's not that that person didn't die, but it's that you didn't murder them. So what is your punishment? Well, you don't get to go back home. You're in that city of refuge, and you stay there until the death of the high priest who is serving at that time. Wow. Really? Then he may go back to his own home in the town from which he fled. So just think this through with me. Okay, you're out in the field, some accident occurs, your neighbor dies. Okay, you're responsible for the death. It was your axe head that flew off the handle or whatever happened. You never intended it. It's true manslaughter. You run to the city of refuge. The avenger from that guy's family comes to get you, but the elders of the city of refuge protect you and insulate you from another killing. Okay, well, you stand trial and you're declared innocent, and isn't it supposed to be now that, okay, well, then it's over, I'm going to go back home and see my wife, see my kids, go back to work? No. God says, look, you can't go back home until the high priest dies. Isn't that fascinating? Why? Well, the high priest, what does he stand for? He's the mediator in this priestly system. He's the mediator between God and man. That's what the high priest does, right? They call on him to sacrifice. They call on him to enter the Holy of Holies. He mediates the relationship between God and man, and his death is required for this person to be set free. So let's just fast forward to the New Testament for a minute, because I think God is foreshadowing his salvation plan. Look at Hebrews 9 with me. When Christ came as high priest, occupying the same office of the good things that are already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle that is not man-made, that is to say, not a part of this creation. Look, he did not enter by means of the blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, having obtained eternal redemption. So think about this. You have a city of refuge. You have a man that's committed manslaughter, or a person. You have a high priest that's living somewhere in the Israel nation. Okay, you're now acquitted of your manslaughter charge, but until the priest dies, you can't go home. You're set free by the death of the high priest. How symbolic, because we see in the New Testament the same sort of thing happening. We are set free from our sin by the death of the high priest. We are saved from the penalty of death through the death of our high priest. Here in the cities of refuge, God sets up a foreshadowing of what that's going to be like when his Messiah comes. So now we're going to hear about the cities. They set apart Kadesh in Galilee in the hill country of Naphtali, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah. These are the cities that are on the west side of the Jordan. Well, it's probably best if we just look at it. Kadesh is up here in the north in the area of Naphtali. Then Shechem is here in Ephraim. Kiriath Arba is in Judah. What does this mean? This means you're a day's walk away from a city of refuge if an accident happens. So instead of vengeance upon vengeance, murder upon murder happening, because you know what happens, right? I accidentally kill your brother, so then you come and kill me to take vengeance for what happened with your brother, and then guess what? Somebody in my family comes to kill you, and then somebody in your family comes to kill that person, and before you know it, we just got the Wild West out here where everybody's shooting each other. Well, stabbing would probably be better for this time frame in history, but in the end, what are we told? God stops all that. Go to a city of refuge, be protected by the elders there, stand at trial before an assembly of the people, and then stay there till the high priest dies. We're not going to have this series of vindictiveness, of revenge killings that'll be set off if the avenger of blood is allowed to kill the one who committed manslaughter. This is predicted or commanded, Numbers 35, these 6 towns. Again, if somebody's murdered accidentally, that's where you can flee. The text in Joshua takes us further, and on the east side of the Jordan of Jericho, so now we're on the east side, they designated Bezer in the desert on the plateau in the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead in the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan in the tribe of Manasseh. Any of the Israelites, remember we started with anyone, any of the Israelites or any alien, that's a non-Israelite, living among them, who killed someone accidentally, could flee to these designated cities and not be killed by the avenger of blood prior to standing trial before the assembly. So in the trial before the assembly, if it is deemed that this was not manslaughter, this was murder, then the slayer would be murdered himself, executed, capital punishment. If, however, it's turned out to be true manslaughter, no intentional killing, accidental, no, what do they call it, malice of forethought, all right, well, in that case, this person gets to live. The series of dying, of death, of polluting the land through the shedding of blood is stopped. When the high priest dies, the guilty is set free. That sounds New Testament to me. How about you? Just to fill you in on the map one more time, you see the 3 cities on the east of the Jordan, on the west, Kadesh, Shechem, and Kiriath Arba. Golan's about there, Ramoth's about there in Gilead, and Bezer is down below there in Reuben. As we close today, I just want to take you to the New Testament for a quick second. Think about the book of Hebrews, because God wanted to make the unchanging nature of his purpose very clear to the heirs of what was promised. He confirmed it with an oath. God did this so that by 2 unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled, notice the language here, we who have fled to take hold of the hope offered to us may be greatly encouraged. Like the one fleeing to the city of refuge, we have fled to the Lord because of the cross. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain, where Jesus, who went before us, has entered on our behalf. He has become a high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. The guilty is not punished by death. They're set free when the high priest dies. You know how that relates to our salvation in the New Testament, I'm sure. It's an amazing foreshadowing of what God is doing, and it's also an incredible way for God to regulate crime, punishment, civility in the community of Israel. We'll pick it up there next time, church. God bless you. Serve Him well today.
Who is it who for sinners shed His blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who He is? He's the image of the invisible God, and He's the brightness of His glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.